Welcome to episode 7 of The Average Geek Show. I am Brian.
I'm Philippe.
And you are now listening to The Comic Book Club.
More manlier than Oprah's book club.
Yeah, you got to throw in a ball scratch and Welcome to episode 7 of The Average Geek Show. I am Klaus.
Oh my god, I can't believe he just did that.
Come on, Philippe. Come on.
I'm Philippe.
No. It's Klaus and Hans talking about mouse.
I can't do a German accent.
Yes, you can. Try.
No, I can't.
Try. Schnell!
Anyways.
Welcome to episode 7. Yeah, I promise I will not do this the whole episode, but just to introduce, we are talking about mouse, and I am doing this for our three German friends.
Shit.
I can keep going, yeah.
Oh god, I'm going to start calling you Gru.
Gru was not from Germany.
Well, he sounds just like
He was
you.
from Romania. It's very different.
Oh god.
Shall I keep going?
Let's just get past this.
Right. So, we are here to discuss Mouse. It is our comic book review.
God damn it.
You are going to have so much fun editing
I'm going to have a
this.
fucking seizure in a minute.
Well, I can do my Scottish accent if you like.
Ugh.
We could have puppets
No,
for the
that's
show. All right, more serious. See, the problem is I start talking like this, and then I can't stop.
Oh my god.
All right. Welcome to episode 7 of The Average Geek Show. My name is Brian.
And I'm Philippe.
And we are joined by our guest, Klaus. Say hello, Klaus. Hello. I am here to talk about the German books that you're reading.
And as you know, Brian cannot go one episode without doing a German accent.
I don't know what you're
To
talking
all
about.
our
Who is this Brian you
German
speak
fans out there.
of? Who is this Brian you speak of? I am only Klaus.
Oh, shit.
I'm Brian Philippe. That's Klaus.
And as you can tell, Brian suffers from multiple personality disorder, which he has been going to therapy on this, but unfortunately he forgot to take his medicine this morning, so therefore there's two. Brian
And I think
Klaus.
therapy is actually introducing more personalities. Because then I have Duncan. He is a new one.
Shit.
All right, seriously though. So in this episode, we are going to be talking about Mouse. It is our comic book of the month for July. Can you believe we're already in July?
Craziness. Can you believe we're already on episode 7?
Yeah, I can. There's a lot of work that you guys don't see that goes into these episodes.
Indeed.
In the research and the editing and the posting and just everything.
Yeah.
But we wouldn't do it if we didn't love it.
Exactly.
So this episode, we're going to talk only about Mouse. We're not going to do any kind of news or anything like that. That's going to be our next episode that we talk about. And oh my God, I cannot wait for our next episode.
It's going to be a good one.
And we'll talk more about that at the end of the show. But this show is going to have a little bit more of a darker tone. It's not going to be as upbeat as it usually is. We're probably not going to joke around as much, simply because this is a very serious comic.
Well, first of all, Brian, how did you find out about Mouse?
Well, I found out about Mouse because I am a frequent customer of comics and stuff in El Cajon.
Okay.
And I've made friends with one of the counter people, or comic book guru, if you will. Her name is Shannon. She is amazing, and she has such a wealth of knowledge about comic books. I was in there one day, and I was just like, I'm looking for a comic book to read. I want it to be a little more serious. I want it to be a good read, something that I can't put down, and I don't want it to be short. I want a nice, long story that can just really hook me in, kind of like a novel, but with pretty pictures. So she's like, okay, what are some of your hobbies? And I was like, well, podcasting. And I also like, studying and learning about World War II. She's like, I got it. I got the perfect book for you. She's like, it's a little on the pricey side. It was, I think I picked it up for about $16. But she's like, it's called Mouse. And I'm like, Mouse? What? She's like, no, it's spelled the German way, M-A-U-S. It's about the Holocaust. It's told from the point of view of this guy who survived the Holocaust's son. It's kind of weird. It does this whole thing as a flashback, where Art is sitting down with his father, Vlajic, and he's saying, Dad, tell me about the Holocaust. Tell me about World War II. Tell me what you went through. And it kind of jumps back and forth between him actually having a conversation with his father and his father telling him this is what happened.
Right.
So, I mean, it's really interesting. I mean, I found the parts where they're in modern day, you know, having their conversations. I found that kind of unique because it's not just a story about the Holocaust. It's about a son trying to repair his relationship with his father and become closer to his father because his father's getting older. You know, he knows he's not going to be around forever, and he wants to get these stories from his dad. And at the same time, he's repairing that relationship with his dad. So his father doesn't exactly have a good relationship with his current wife. And the dynamic between the three of them is just really interesting in the modern times panels.
Right.
Just because, you know, she's coming to Art, or his stepmother's coming to Art and saying, your father's doing this. And Art will go and talk to his father, and he's like, my wife is doing this, you know. And it's just this kind of back and forth. And then there's a couple of times in the comic where he's just like, I've had it. No more. You know. But then you have this really interesting and dynamic story that takes place during the Holocaust. And it's just a really good read.
Yeah, so there's a really interesting twist on this. Instead of it actually being people, the author uses these animals to depict each type of person. Like, for example, all the Polish Jews are mice. All the non-Jewish Polish people are pigs, and all the Nazis are cats.
The natural enemy of the mice.
Yeah. So it's really interesting, that whole, the character choice and and how it really works with the dynamic of the entire book, throughout the entire book.
It's really kind of interesting, and this is how it was kind of described to me, is it takes the human element out.
Yeah.
And that somehow makes the story deeper and more meaningful.
Yeah. No, I totally agree.
It's just a phenomenal read. But as I said in an earlier episode, it leaves you on a cliffhanger.
Yeah.
This whole story of Volume 1 of Mouse is about the lead up to when they get sent to Auschwitz.
Yeah.
Or Auschwitz. And it's just about how they hid from the Nazis, how the Nazis are slowly creeping in and taking more and more and more away from the Jews. It is just, it's hard to describe how excellent the story is. I mean, I think one of my favorite parts of the story is when they're on the run.
Yeah.
You know, and just the different techniques. And it's really well illustrated, too, because he'll talk about, you know, this is what we did to hide. This is the room we built. This is what it's like. And then in the story, he says, here, give me your pen. I'm going to draw it for you. And sure enough, there's a separate panel that shows, okay, this was the coal bin. You know, there was a panel that went on top that had coal on it so that, you know, it hid the entrance to us. You know, and then we built a false wall and piled coal up against the other side of this wall, so it just looked like a coal pile.
Right. I'm going to definitely echo what you just said. What this book really does really, really well is visualize the first-hand experience that the Jews went throughout this entire Holocaust. Like, when you are in history class, you read about the Holocaust and you're thinking, oh my God, how can anybody do this? But that's only gives you so much. When you see a movie or when you read a book like this, where there's actual illustration that goes along with it, and plus a personal story with it, it just blows your mind. Like, this book completely blew my mind. Like, as I was reading it, like, I must have read through the first half of the book in one sitting. You know, I kind of lost track of time because the book was so descriptive and the story was just so amazing. Like you said, when they are on the run, they start off living a pretty good life, and they're factory owners, and they're doing really good. They have a kid, they get married, they have a kid, and they're doing really well. And then all of a sudden, the Nazi occupation comes in, and just all hell breaks loose, and it's just crazy. You're reading, and you're like, oh my God.
And you know what was crazy to me is, and I've read a lot about World War II. I've seen almost every documentary that's out there. What was really amazing to me is I never knew how the Nazis really pitted the citizens of Poland against the Polish Jews.
Right.
And this story really illustrates that they didn't know who to trust.
Right.
And it gets you so involved that you're like, oh, don't trust that guy. Don't trust that guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's just like how people tried to capitalize off the Nazi occupation, and like it was Vlajic's like brother-in-law that became like one of the leaders in the ghetto.
Right.
And was like hiding goods and stuff and like selling it on the black market. And there was this whole separate black market of like bread.
Yeah.
And we go to the grocery store, we pick up a loaf of bread, no big deal.
Right.
But just to see that how hard it was for them just to get bread, Yeah,
I mean, these God, I mean, it's hard to imagine that these people went days, weeks without food because they had absolutely no money, and they were selling their rings, their heirlooms, their rings, their watches, all their valuables just to make it by just a little bit, or just to be safe.
Yeah.
They would pay people off just so when the Gestapo came in and looked for Jews, they said, "Oh, no, there's no Jews here."
And this book actually, it really gets you emotional about it.
Yeah.
And one of the things that made me so angry, well, it's not only just the Nazi occupation,
right,
but how, like they, in one part of the book, they're staying with somebody and their money runs out, or their gold, their jewelry runs out. And as soon as that happens, the person they're staying with, who they've been staying with for months, calls the Nazis on them.
Right.
And I'm like, that's fucking bullshit. That's a dick move.
Yeah.
But, I mean, this is, like I said, this is a true story.
Right.
This actually happened. And it just blows me away that people can be that opportunistic.
Yeah.
But, no, I mean, it's a really good story. I mean, even if you don't like the art style in this, because the art style is a little basic on it.
Yeah, it's very simple.
I mean, it's just, you can totally tell it's hand-drawn. I was expecting color throughout the comic, but it's just it's black and white.
Yeah.
And I mean, you'll have to see what I mean. You can just Google search mouse and you can see the art style. With that being said, it really allows the story a chance to shine. It
really does. I think you're exactly right. I loved the animal depictions with the drawing, and like you said, it's really simple, but I think it really helps you focus on the story itself. And to me, that was brilliant. To me, that wasn't like a dislike at all. That was like wow, this is awesome.
Oh yeah, I mean, because I was less focused on the art just as a whole. It's like, look at the picture, okay. The only thing that I really focused on was like when he said, "Here, let me draw this for you."
Right.
And then he would draw out, like the area in which they lived, what his factory looked like. And that was kind of nice as like just a little bit of a visual aid, but the story didn't rely on the art.
Right.
So it just was incredibly interesting. And it wasn't just about the Holocaust. And, like I said, it's about the son trying to repair his relationship with his father. And those parts were so deep, and it was like, it had me flashing into my own life experiences, where, I have a grandparent that's getting on in their years, and just some of the stuff that she says to me, it's like, when I go, this is for you, or when I go, this is where you find this. And it's just like, I don't want to hear that.
Yeah.
And he has the same reaction. And it's like his father takes him to the bank and says, "This is my safety deposit box. We need to get you a key.
Yeah.
Because I'm not long for this world."
Right.
But then there's another story on top of it that's even darker.
Yeah.
And that's about his mother.
Oh, yeah. And that was so crazy because, the whole time when you're in the beginning of the book, you get references about his mom. And at first, you see his stepmom and you immediately think, oh, that's his mom, but it's not. And it turns out that his mom actually commits suicide. And what's really crazy was, I think maybe midway, maybe 3/4 into the book, his father finds a comic that the son wrote, and it was basically like another kind of biographical thing where his mother dies, and the father is just an absolute wreck, and the son is just this absolute wreck as well.
Well, he actually thinks that it was his fault,
right?
And this comic, it's a comic within a comic,
right?
But he wrote this comic and drew this comic to just kind of get his feelings out there and say, this is what I'm going through. I mean, this is definitely an adult comic, but it's so emotionally deep.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. I don't want to spoil too much about this comic because I really want our listeners, you guys, to read it. But phenomenal comic book. I haven't read anything this good, book, comic, anything, in a long time.
I had a lot of doubts, honestly, when I first saw this book. I saw it in the children's section, and I think Scholastic is actually re-releasing it, like grabbed it and is starting to re-release it now. And that's when I saw it. The cover is interesting because it's like two mice and a big swastika with a cat like in the middle. And I'm
the
like,
Hitler cat.
Yeah, and I'm like, what the hell is this? And I didn't, I didn't even bother picking it up. I just kind of like whatever. And then Brian actually came to me. He's like, dude, I just read this awesome book. We're going to do a show on it. You need to read this. And it's phenomenal. It's probably one of the best graphic novels I've ever read because it's much more, quite honestly, it's written so well that even if it had no illustrations at all, it would still be good. It would still be good. But because it has those illustrations, it just makes it just sucks you in even more.
Oh, yeah.
There was a part that really was just crazy, like when they were in one of the concentration camps, or maybe they were hiding from the Gestapo or something, and one of the Gestapo, like there's a bunch of kids sitting around playing and they're hungry and they're kind of yelling and screaming, and one of the Gestapo grabs the kid and slams him on the wall. And then he said something like, "This is how the Gestapo silenced the children." And I was like, holy crap.
Yeah. It's like you don't even see stuff like that in like the movies or in the TV.
Right.
It's just a brutally honest account of what happened.
Yeah. And God, man, like you, after I read it, I was so fucking angry.
Oh, yeah.
And I actually, after I read this, it took me a while to like get rid of the fucking anger in this. And I actually had a hard time sleeping last night because of it. Because
really?
It was just so like, I didn't have any like weird dreams or anything, but it was just so much anger and so much sorrow for what the Jews went through.
And it wasn't just the Jews
that
went through that either. They were picking on, or I shouldn't say they were picking on, they were hurting up, gypsies, homosexuals.
Yeah.
Political opponents.
Yeah, Soviet POWs. It was
anybody that pissed them off.
Yeah, yeah. It was insane. So yeah, after that, I went on Wikipedia and I looked up the Holocaust. I looked up Auschwitz, and seeing all those like city names and all those things and putting them more, researching them on Wikipedia, it just made me more sick to my stomach. And it's
right.
like, how the and it made you really think, how in the fuck can a human being
do that to another human?
It's just...
There's a lot of sick people, and Hitler was just everybody goes, oh, Hitler, he was a horrible human being.
Yeah.
But you really don't have a grasp of how horrible he was until you read something like this.
Yeah.
And I'm surprised that this hasn't been turned into a movie. If any comic were to be turned into a movie, it would be this one. This one should be turned into a movie.
Totally.
And I think it's really good that Scholastic picked it up, because when I was in school, we started learning like in depth about the Holocaust right about middle school.
Okay.
And it seems like this book is written right there. I mean, it's something that a middle schooler would be able to pick up and follow and understand and get hooked on. But we as adults, I mean, we can read into things a little bit more and we get a lot more out of it. But this is definitely something, if you have kids and they're of like middle school age, make them read this.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, and it's kind of a cool thing. I mean, you become the cool parent, buying your kids comic books, and saying, here, I want you to read this. And it's definitely, if you're a teacher and you're listening to our show, maybe introduce it into your classroom. Maybe not give it as a reading assignment if you're in middle school, but introduce it. Say, if you want to read more, pick this up.
Right.
Or maybe read passages from it.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I can see this being very controversial.
Especially
in a
when
middle school.
Especially when a Nazi's picking up a kid and slamming his head against the wall.
Yeah, I mean, it's very, very graphic.
And we're not like talking about like him being picked up by like the chest or the throat. No, he grabs him by the legs and swings him like a baseball bat into the wall.
Yeah, and it's very graphic. I can see it doing well in like maybe an 8th grade, as opposed to like 6th or 7th,
or maybe even a freshman high school.
Yeah, but I can see this being really controversial because it's so graphic. But I really, really think that it's something kids really need, or teenagers, preteens really need to look at and really need to read and really need to grasp how horrible of a thing that happened. And
how much of an atrocity World War II was.
Yeah, and it's things like this, that it's literature like this and movies like this that I hope will help ensure that something like this never happens again.
That's very true, but we could go on and talk about parallels between modern times and World War II because people forget about their history.
Oh yeah.
But we're not a political show. We're talking about a comic book. So if you are interested in picking up Mouse, we'll have links available on the Facebook and on our website, linking you to our Amazon affiliate page. It doesn't cost you anything extra, but it really helps the show out if you go on and shop through our link. So similar reading, if you liked Mouse, if you've read Mouse, or you want a kind of a lead into Mouse, there's some really great books out there. And movies too. And there's a TV series too that's really good to read or to see. The first thing was a book that I read in middle school, and the author of the book actually came and spoke at my school.
Wow.
Yeah, and I hope he's still around doing this, but he was old when I was in middle school. His name is David Faber. I don't know if you've ever heard of him.
No.
He wrote a book called Because of Romek. It's also available on Amazon.com. It's a thin book, but it's a really good read. And he was a Polish Jew. He was 10 when the Nazis invaded, I believe. And it's about how his brother was in the Polish army, and he was captured walking with his brother by the Nazi Gestapo.
Right.
And it's all about them interrogating his brother in front of him and torturing his brother.
God.
And because of his brother, he made it through World War II.
Right.
And he made it through Auschwitz and was rescued by the American liberators. It's an amazing story. It comes with photographs of his family. David Faber's family, his entire family, was killed.
Wow.
During the Nazi occupation.
Wow.
He was the only survivor, and I think when he got out, he was 18 years old when the liberators came, and he weighed 65 pounds.
Oh, my Lord.
And there's a picture of him after he was rescued, and he is a skeleton covered in skin. and it's heartbreaking to read this. But to hear this man speak when he came to our school, how passionate he was, to him, this just happened yesterday. I mean, it left that much of a mark on him.
Right.
I'm not sure. You could probably go on YouTube and find his speech, but definitely pick up the book. It's an amazing read, and I'll lend it to you if you want.
Cool, yeah.
But it's an amazing book. Go check it out. Also, you can read Schindler's List, or you can watch the movie. Books are usually better than the movie, though. They're more detailed. And then there's an amazing series, not just about the Holocaust, but about the Americans in World War II. It's called Band of Brothers.
Yeah, I remember that.
And most of you will probably have heard about it and have seen the episode that involves the liberation of one of the Nazi death camps. Phenomenal series, very well done. It was done by Tom Hanks and Steven Spielberg. It's also available on Amazon, and it's actually out on Blu-ray now.
Nice.
So, and it comes in a really cool tin. So pick that up. Philippe, do you have any other recommendations?
Go out and buy the second volume. The second volume supposedly wraps everything up. I read like a brief synopsis of the second volume, and it really dives, from what I hear, it dives deep more into the father and son relationship, more into the Holocaust, and it just kind of wraps everything up really nice. And it's supposed to be amazing. I can't wait to read it.
Yeah, I have volume 2. I haven't started it yet because I've been really, really busy, but I fully plan on reading it, and as soon as I'm done with it, I'll lend it to you.
Cool.
But it's actually available, both Volume 1 and Volume 2, as a single omnibus book. And I saw that for $35, so it might be a little cheaper on Amazon.
Yeah, we'll post links to that on our website as well.
Definitely. Go check that out. It's going to be awesome. You won't regret reading this. Unless, of course, you are our nerd overlord, Kendall. Kendall sent me a private message through the Average Geek Show fan page, and he said, I'd really love to comment on Mouse, but I'm afraid I'm going to get flack because he did not enjoy the story.
Okay.
He really couldn't get through it. He said he bought the book and he only got a few pages or a few chapters into it because this book is very much like a real book. It has chapters. He said he just couldn't get through it. He didn't like how it jumped around, between modern time and the 1940s. He thought that, the animals in place of people were a bit cliche. He's like, really, the Poles were pigs, Nazis, cats, Jews, mice, really?
Yeah.
He said it all seemed a bit cliche. He said, other than that, the story was really good. But he just couldn't get through it because it was just too much for him.
I can see that. I mean, for some people, it may not be appealing just for that simple matter.
Right. So, and unfortunately, Kendall was the only one that took part in the Mouse discussion, which is fine. We understand you guys are busy, but that's kind of why we want to do this. We want to get you guys involved, see what your opinions are. And, surprise announcement, our next comic book club show will be live with an audience. So we'll get some live reactions to the comic books. It'll be a lot of fun. We haven't decided where we're going to be doing this yet, but we have a couple places in mind.
Yeah, and as we find out more details on that, we'll definitely post them, or we'll just talk about it on the show.
Yeah, definitely. But I have a feeling we'll be talking about it on Facebook because this is really cool. We're excited to be doing this.
Totally.
All right, so with that, I think we're going to close out the show. But before we do, we have to announce what our next comic book club book is going to be about. And this is going to be for August. Okay. Our next book is the Original Sin series by Marvel Comics. It is phenomenal.
Oh, it's so freaking good.
But I'm only up to book 2.
Oh, you still haven't gotten to book 3 yet?
I've been busy.
Oh.
I've been busy. I'm sorry. But yes, it is phenomenal. There's all sorts of tie-ins that it's really great. It's like when Marvel did Civil War. It's an epic event. There's all sorts of tie-ins. There's 2 issues of Hulk versus Iron Man, and it's just a one-off series. They're just doing the 2 issues
Nice.
for Original Sin.
Nice.
Now, keep in mind, this is not to be confused with a new comic series called Original Sins, with an S. This is Original Sin. It's all about the Watcher and the Avengers. It's really, really good so far. So start reading that. Start picking them up. It should be out in trade fairly soon. I don't know if it'll be out in trade by August, though. It might still be individual issues. But we're not going to cover the tie-ins. We may mention it here and there, but we're just going to read the Original Sin series. Pick it up at your local comic book store or at Amazon.com through our hyperlink. And with that, I think we're going to close out today's show. Thank you so much for listening. And once again, I am Brian.
I'm Philippe.
And I am Klaus. Thank you for listening.
Jesus.